Bienvenidos. Aquí estamos un día más, por segundo día consecutivo, con una nueva edición especial de NBAdictos. Ya sabéis que nos gusta invitar a gente al otro lado del charco, en esta ocasión. Si ayer teníamos a coach David Thorpe, hoy tenemos con nosotros a uno de los mejores periodistas del mundo NBA. Una de las personas que cubre a los Bucks en The Athletic, ni más ni menos que Eric Nehm. Aquí comienza el capítulo 370 de NBAdictos. Ya sabéis que, como todas las entrevistas que hacemos en inglés, primero haremos hoy la entrevista en inglés, charlando con Eric, y a lo largo de estos días la iré traduciendo para tenerla doblada posiblemente la semana que viene. Hello, Eric.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to NBAdictos.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, Eric. I have to. It's a technical failure for my part. Sorry.
No worries at all.
Yes. Now, hello, Eric. Welcome to NBAdictos again.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hugo Tubio is in the chat. He said back to backs here. Aupa, Hugo. Todo lo que nos queráis decir en el chat, si es en inglés mejor, porque si no tengo que ir traduciendo, pero bueno, bienvenidos sois todos los que estáis ahí al otro lado en Twitch. Eric, welcome to NBAdictos. We have today a reigning champion in NBAdictos.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't win a ring myself, but I got to cover the team that did, so I'm excited to be here. My good friend Seth is here, or was here in Milwaukee, and said, you should come by and have a conversation. So I was like, all right, let's do it.
How many years have you been covering the Bucks?
I've been covering the Bucks since the 2014-15 season, so Giannis's second year in the NBA.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if the teams to the journalists that cover the team for so many years, they have any detail with you. I don't say a ring, but something.
No, I mean, for the most part, you just doing the job. So no, I did not get a ring or anything like that. But I mean, obviously, I think as an NBA beat reporter, your hope is always to cover the most exciting things. And sometimes that is a trade. Sometimes that is a coach getting fired. Sometimes that is, a big free agent signing. And then sometimes it's an NBA championship. And that was, obviously the highlight of my career to this point, to get to do that and follow along as the Bucks did that. It was a little bit weird because we were in COVID times, so it wasn't, in the locker room getting sprayed with champagne, all of that. But it really was kind of a wild experience to go through and just see all of this happen, in the city that you've been based in.
We hope that COVID-19 ends sometime in the next, I don't know, few years, let's say that. And you can also celebrate a championship without COVID. It would be great because you have the team to last for some years and years.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to think about because the Bucks hadn't won a championship in 50 years. They won it in 1971 and then hadn't won a championship until, the 2021 season. And, it's just kind of crazy to think about how much time has passed then from that time to now. And then, how many people have done the job that I've done during that time. The Athletics didn't even exist all these years ago. And, there are a bunch of other beat writers that covered a lot of, frankly, bad basketball. The Bucks were not a good team for many, many years. And then they draft this kid from Greece and, it ends up working out that they end up being, the very best team and win a championship in 2021.
Mm-hmm. I asked Seth about how it was the feeling being inside the team while he was from 2016 to 2019, growing with the team. I'm going to ask you something similar, because you've been covering since 2014, and uh, you said before it was the second year of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I don't know there in the US, because sometimes we have to remember here in Spain that in the US, normally the people don't follow the NBA the way we do here in Spain or in Europe. Here we see all the teams, and we have one game per day if you don't have the league pass, and
Right.
it's not the national game that you have in the US. So some days it's a good game. Some days it's like Houston Thunder.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the end of the year, we more or less see the same amount of games of all the teams. But there in the US, you normally follow the team, for example, of Milwaukee, the Bucks, and then you see like 2 or 3 games that were in the national television across the year. So sometimes the people forget this. You've been covering since the second year of Giannis, and here the old school guys like me, we are very fond of the Milwaukee Bucks, because it's like an old school team. I mean, they get Giannis in the draft. Obviously, it was a robbery, but they also trust in Chris Middleton, who was in the Detroit Pistons for a year with not no confidence from the team,
Right.
and you were growing little by little, making little changes instead of going to that huge free agent to make a super team with Giannis. How it was, all this process, and how it felt from your perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about because, some of the most fun stories I've written since I've been at The Athletic the last couple of years have been, about the time that I wasn't there, right? Like,
Mhm.
Giannis and Chris and I have shared so many, games and memories, and they've sat here and watched me pepper them with questions after hundreds of games at this point, right? Like every game, there's Eric, but then there's that one year where I wasn't there. Giannis's rookie year, Chris's first year in Milwaukee, and the most fun stories are the ones where they get to tell me something I don't already know, right? Like I wasn't there. I didn't get to see it. And they always tell me about rookie year, we hated each other because we were fighting for the
For the same
exact
spot.
same playing spot. Yeah, like the exact same playing time. That's what we were fighting for. And we were the two guys who was going to get those minutes on the wing. So those two guys just battled. And Giannis tells this great story about it's his first year in America. He's I mean, trying to figure out how to live in America, first of all. But then, midway through the season, he gets his parents to come over and he tells this story about how uh during that first year, he came back from a practice. He comes to his home, like where he's living. His parents are there, and he explains to his parents about this guy, Chris Middleton. And he needs to tell them about it because if you look on his arms, there's scratches all over it because him and Chris are fighting so hard on different plays that Giannis is running to try to get open, that Chris is running. So they're holding each other, they're grabbing each other, they're pushing each other. So Giannis comes back with all these scratches on his arms, and his parents are like, "Who did this to you?" and he explains it's this guy,
Who's that
Chris
girl?
Middleton.
Who's that girl?
Right. So he explains like, no, it was this guy, Chris, that him and I are fighting for these minutes, and Giannis has used very colorful language that I won't use here on the podcast, but
You can
you know,
curse. You can curse
uh,
here.
he's like, no, I hate this motherfucker. Like I'm gonna steal this motherfucker's minutes. Like this,
Yeah.
that's the way that these two guys are thinking about it. And to me, that's always been the most fun thing is that you know in that first year they're fighting for minutes. And to me, that's been the fun part of this journey is that that's where it starts, right? Is that those two guys are so competitive. They don't have a secure spot in the league. They're not number one picks. They're not, I mean, Chris isn't even a first rounder. Giannis, no one knows anything about. These are two guys that are trying to prove it from the moment they get to Milwaukee. And then all of a sudden, in the Eastern Conference Finals, Giannis goes down. Chris is scoring 20 points a quarter, a couple 40-point games. And I remind them of, hey, remember that first year when you guys were literally fighting with each other? And you can just sense this bond and this brotherhood between those two that, as you said, is really rare in the NBA. That's not how this tends to work. Guys don't stay together for 8 years.
Yeah.
That you stay together 3 or 4 years, it doesn't work. All right, we're going to try a new team. We're going to trade some guys. We're going to get a different free agent acquisition, whatever it is. We're going to stop trying to make this work. And yet in Milwaukee, this small little town that is cold in the winter that no one wants to come to, you have these two guys that are there forever. They're the foundation, they're the bedrock. They are what the entire organization is built on. And then all of a sudden, both of these guys Giannis turns into a two-time MVP, the finals MVP last year. Chris Middleton turns into a multiple-time All-Star, someone who's just universally respected around the NBA, is one of the elite scorers in the league. And you just have those two guys, right? It really speaks to your point that, like, this is not normal. This is not how it works. And I think honestly, I hope for people overseas, they can kind of, I think maybe you guys can appreciate it better than Americans can,
Yeah.
because that is more normal for your sports organizations. That isn't normal over here. So it's rare here. It's something that I think you guys can really appreciate
I-
and
it was
know.
more normal a few years ago. I think that
Right.
since the decision in 2010, is like there is this hurry when we need to win, and we need to win now.
Right.
And if I lose against you, I'm not going to come back next year and break your ass. No, I'm going to play with you so I can win with you what I can win against you. Is something that I hate of this
Yeah.
last 10 years.
And it's funny too, because I remember, um, let's see, so it would have been Mike Budenholzer's first year. It was right when Giannis was starting to get his new Nike deal. He's gonna have a signature
Mhm.
shoe, all this stuff. And I had heard that him and Kevin Durant had started to text each other. And as you know, like, that's the very first step. And hey, we're building a super team. This is how it's all gonna work. And I remember asking Giannis, like, okay, this is what I heard. I've heard that you two are like texting after, the first game against Golden State. You guys were talking or whatever. And he was like, yes, that's true. We have been, but we're kind of talking about shoe stuff and how this is all gonna work. He's like, but I would never do that, Eric. Like, I don't I don't want to be buddy buddy with these guys. I don't want to sit here and work out in the summer with this guy. And then all of a sudden, after a game, I'm hugging him and we're changing jerseys. And, all of a sudden, maybe we should get together for a team. He wants to do it by himself. He wants to have that team. This is Giannis's team. And obviously, he has help. He has Chris Middleton. He has Drew Holiday, Brooke Lopez. And
Eric,
he's very,
I remember a piece that you wrote for the Athletic. I don't know if it was like a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Before he has his new Supermax deal, and all the people were talking. I love the Athletic. I always said that you don't pay me, but I always say that it's the best spent money in my life. And great information, and you don't speculate with rumors, and you speak with facts, or in some cases what you speak with the players. And I remember a piece that you wrote in which you ask Giannis about training in summer with because he was invited by, I don't remember if it was LeBron or
Yeah,
who,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he said something like, "Okay, they want to train with me, sign with the Bucks, and you will train with me all the year."
Yeah, and that to me, like you said, this is not normal, right? Like this is just kind of Giannis doing his own thing, which for me, honestly, I don't love super teams and kind of guys getting together and doing that. I like the idea of doing it by yourself. There's part of me that hopes, hey, people see Giannis win a championship. He won one. And throughout all of that, people question Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. And obviously, John Horst built a team around Giannis that makes a lot of sense. But there's a lot of people that I think can now say, hey, Giannis did it by himself. Giannis didn't join a super team. Maybe that means I can do the same thing. Maybe
Yeah.
that means in whatever city I'm in, if I work hard enough and I keep improving my game and I get my GM to get the right moves or whatever it might be, I don't have to go do this with somebody else. I don't have to join up. And maybe that's just like the hopeful romantic in me that hopes that that's how this works, but I do think you see it, and you can see Giannis kind of had that from the start where I'm asking him about, hey, did you get an invite here, did you do this, do that, and he's like, no. I Whether or not you invited me, like, if you want me to hang out, come come to Milwaukee. Like, you're gonna have to come and play with me. You're gonna have to sign here. I'm not going anywhere else. Like, this is my city and this is my team. And I just think as you said, it's unique. It's special, and it's something that I don't know if it will. But the trend was going one way, and now if we get lucky, it goes the other way. That everyone goes back to kind of instead of buddy buddy, instead of super team stuff, everyone just kind of tries to win in their city, and I just hope that that can come back because that's the level of competition I think everybody loves and
Yeah.
wants and respects in the NBA.
Yeah, and if we can see this season that the two super teams, the one in Brooklyn and the older one,
Yeah.
are not working as they expected, and so we can see a very fair season. And it's funny to watch. I think that Golden State Warriors helped with that. Then they signed Durant, and they kind of ruined it. But
Yeah.
they are going back to the to the square one. And also the Atlanta Hawks doing this Golden State Warriors style with Travis Schleck, drafting guys, signing veterans. And I think that the old school guys like me, we see that and we appreciate it. We have viewers here asking things in the chat. Hugo Tobio says these times are hard with a lot of contenders. Do you think Giannis have gap to improve skills and influence over the players when his physical conditions go to other level?
So, yeah, I just wrote a story at The Athletic about, I was talking with Giannis about how he's trying to kind of get to the next level and how he's trying to, develop and evolve into, the next player or the next version of himself. And I think so often you see the way that Giannis shoots the ball, and you see that's the spot, right? If
Mm.
he's gonna improve, it's the jumper. It's gotta be the jumper. That's the only way he can improve. And I think the thing I've always appreciated about Giannis is that he works his ass off on his jumper. Like, I'm not trying to say that he doesn't do that, but he also understands that the game of basketball is more than jump shooting. The
Yeah.
game of basketball is, kind of this beautiful matchup of different skills and talents and, trying to get better on the defensive end and on the offensive end. And I think one thing that he's realized is that, hey, maybe I can't always shoot the ball the best, but I still get attention.
And
Like
we have the proof last night. I was talking in this morning. All the mornings we do a special with the recaps of the night, and that last play. Uh, 99% of the franchise players will shoot a mid-range shoot in that
Yep.
play, and he was mature enough to think and to say, okay, We have time. The Hornets don't have any timeout left. I can consume a couple of seconds more, and I can go to the rim so I can secure my shot. And I think it's a clear example of what Giannis has been from the last year and a half.
That chat was so much fun to me, and I'll explain why. So I wrote this story at the Athletic today, right? Um, this is the Bucks have tried this play before, where they have three guys in the front court, and those three guys try to get open, and then Giannis is back behind the half court line. They tried this in the season opener 2 years ago against the Miami Heat. Giannis did not get the ball in that situation. Chris Middleton did, missed a jumper. Giannis tipped it in. They tried this last year in their first game against the Brooklyn Nets. Same thing. Chris Middleton gets a left corner three. It rims in and out. There's not enough time for Giannis to tip it in. They tried it against the Phoenix Suns last year. And to your point, in that moment, there's a little bit less time on the clock, but Giannis got it, tried a jumper, and it didn't go in. And that was when the conversation started about, oh, can the Bucks do it in clutch time? And do they have the finishers? And do they have the closer? And should Giannis get the ball or shouldn't he not get the ball? And, it was all of that, conversation that had been around the Bucks for so long. And to me, last night was just kind of this perfect example of, Giannis always evolving and always improving and always thinking about this because it's a play that they've run. They've tried to do it before. And like you said, in that moment, he has the maturity that, all right, the ball's coming my direction. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to make the move that I would normally make. And then all of a sudden he gets to the rim. And for years, this is a spot where Giannis is going to try to grab it in his left hand, is going to try to throw it down, right? Like that's going to be the goal. Or he's going to try to make one more step and put his shoulder into someone so that he can get to the rim.
Mhm.
But instead, in this moment, Giannis just sneaks it in with his right hand. He gets enough spin on it that it hits the very bottom of the glass and
That
rolls
finger
in.
roll.
And it doesn't make any sense. And the thing I've told people is that, I wrote it in my story. That is a move befitting of a player a foot shorter than Giannis.
Yep.
That's what a point guard would do. That's an under the rim finish. That is 6-footer. If it was Kyrie Irving, we would be talking about, oh my gosh, look at the spin that he puts on the ball. Look at the finesse. Oh my gosh, his bag. He's unbelievable. Look at his skill. He's so skillful. And with Giannis, that's never the conversation, right? He's
No.
big. He can dunk. He's just overwhelming. And to me, those are the things that Giannis is working on. Is the jump shot perfect? No, but he's figured out ways to do it in different ways. He knows how to find a way. Fine, you took it away on the dunk. That's okay. I found a way to still score in this situation using my skill. And to me, that's always been one of the impressive thing about him. And I mean, I'm trying to think. I think 5 or 6 years ago, I started to call him a Kobe level lunatic. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is he's obsessive about getting better at the game of basketball, and he's obsessive about being with his family. Those are the focuses. That's
Mhm.
it. That is all he worries about in life is his family and getting better at the game of basketball. And you can tell that he took that from Kobe, someone he has always really looked up to, someone that he tried to search out and work out with, when Kobe was still alive. And to me, it's just that's the thing. Giannis he'll improve year over year. He will find a
Mhm.
way to add something to his game. Maybe the jump shot isn't perfect, but he will find a way.
And also he's working in because it's like the easy thing to say about Giannis is what you said before. He's too big. He has enormous hands. He is all physical, but
Right.
he's not anymore that guy. He really worked his skills. And I'm not a LeBron James guy. I'm very critic with him. But LeBron James did something similar.
Yep.
LeBron, when he arrived to the league, he was just a physical guy that destroys the rim anytime he gets the ball. Through the years, he improved his pass, he improved his way to read the game, and I see a similar path in Giannis' game. and also I saw a little bit of George Gervin in that finger roll yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think just how much Giannis has improved over the years, and, I think LeBron is a really good parallel to draw because he had to figure out I mean, both of them were blessed as passers at a young age. Giannis was playing point guard over,
Mhm.
in the Greek second league, like, both of them have been blessed with that, but when they got to the league, they both figured out, "Hey, I'm bigger and I'm stronger and I'm quicker than everybody. This is how I'm going to make my impact." And then they, over time, added more and more. And honestly, for one of the stories I wrote this week about Giannis's improved vision and mentality, Pat Connaughton drew the LeBron comparison. He was like, when you're watching Giannis now, it's the same as you're watching LeBron in those years in Cleveland when he was figuring out who he is, because he controls where defenders go with his eyes, or with the way that he holds the ball, or the gaps that he gets into so that he can make a pass a different direction. He's doing all those things that LeBron did, and Pat's like, he can do it. He can be LeBron. And I think it's really important because as Giannis ages, he's still going to have the moments where you say, "Whoa, that dude is an unbelievable athlete." The chase down blocks are still going to be there. The big dunks are still going to be there. The Euro step, the spin, it's all going to be there, but it's not going to be there as much. You got to find a different way to impact the game, in just having defenders kind of be in his area and find a way.
And
Obviously,
basketball
obviously
IQ
he's impressive, but I mean, it just year over year, it seemingly becomes more and more impressive.
and basketball IQ. Every
Yeah,
year he reads better the game. Alex Abiot says it is strange, but in my opinion, is what the public prefers. Golden State Warriors and Bucks can be the most sympathetic teams. I think that we have here, Eric. I don't know if in the US happens the same. We have like two levels of fans of the NBA. The ones that here in Spain is just follow the Spanish players and the main journals that just say LeBron this and
right.
Kevin Durant and that. So that is one level, and then they are the NBA fans that we really follow the league and at different levels.
Right.
Not everybody has to be as freak as me, but I mean, you can see, and then you have times that different teams is are more sympathetic than others. I don't know if that happens also in the US, because we talk a lot with all the guests of the American guests we have in NBAdictos, that there is different. There you follow your university, and the
Right.
rest of the NBA teams, and mainly if you don't have an NBA team in your town, is different.
Yeah, and I think you touched on this earlier. I think people are back to enjoying watching the Warriors play and watching the Bucks play, because it looks like that model that we were talking about. When you watch the Warriors now, it's like, oh yeah, it's Steph and it's Draymond, and then it's a bunch of guys that they drafted,
Yeah,
and oh, okay, yeah, they're building something. This is, a cohesive team unit. And then you think about Clay Thompson coming back and you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember this team. They won 73 games through teamwork and Steph's unbelievable skill and Clay's unbelievable skill and Draymond's unbelievable skill, but they built that together. It's not the super team model that you talked about when they signed Durant. So I do think those two teams feel like the ones that, if you're going to find yourself cheering for a team, and maybe you are, as you said, not in a specific city that has a specific team, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who around the league could I like or not like. The Bucks and the Warriors to me do kind of seem like the ones where you're like, yep, I get it, I'm enjoying it. Obviously, they have transcendent talents in Giannis and Steph that can both do things that you've never seen before, but they've built seemingly the right way. And obviously the Warriors have quite a blip in the middle where they were a super team, but now they are back to not
Yeah.
being a super team anymore and being built around those foundational pieces. And I think that's always an exciting thing to watch.
Mhm. Julian Guede, a friend of us, is the biggest fan of the Milwaukee Bucks here in Spain. Has some questions for you. He asked me. He wants me to ask you, how do you see the evolution of the fans? Because he said that it seems that always Marquette and the Packers have had priority over the Bucks, but that the tendency in the last 6 7 years is changing, and he wants to know if the ambient in the Fisher Forum is as hotter as it was in Bradley Center. That he said it was a boiler.
Yeah, so it definitely has changed. I grew up in this area, and I remember when the team was bad. If you wanted to, you could on any night find a $10 ticket to get into the game, and then the Bradley Center was so empty that if you were creative enough, you could probably manage to sneak down to the lower level and get yourself a nice seat. And even if you weren't that creative, no one was going to say anything because there was no one in the arena. They were happy that someone was there. So that's absolutely true. That they were not the team. It wasn't going to be a sellout every night. I think it was honestly good for the organization that they had to prove, hey, we are good, and you should come to our games. Like it wasn't a given, because I think sometimes when you have a brand like that in American sports, some ownership just takes that for granted. They don't say, "Hey, you know what? We need to get the best of the best. We need to make a trade for this player. We need to upgrade our facilities. We need to spend in the luxury tax. We need to go out and do these things." They'll just take their money and say, "Okay, fine, whatever." Like people are going to keep showing up. So in Milwaukee, it wasn't like that. They had to kind of earn the fans' respect, and obviously, it's been a bit of a process. But since Giannis has come around, it's built and built and built. And I mean, I for the rest of my life will remember seeing just Game 6 in Milwaukee, and at Fiserv Forum, there's a lot of glass windows around the stadium, and I just remember waiting for the game to start. I had eaten dinner, and I had heard from people like, "Hey, you gotta go look outside." And just walking on the suite level, you can get right next to one of the windows. And from the corner of the building, I look that way, I look this way, and it's a sea of people. It's absurd. It's packed in. There's 100,000 people in, I don't know, 3 or 4 city blocks,
Yeah.
and you're just I it's a sight to behold. It's one I will never forget, and that's what you're talking about, going from me sneaking into the lower level with a $10 seat to people, 100,000 people outside the building unable to get in, like just wanting to be close to the building. That's
Yeah.
the level of kind of love and respect that you're talking about. And then as far as the arena, so the Bradley Center, ugly building, um just I always call it a concrete fortress. Like that thing, if you wanted it to stand for the next 1,000 years, it could have. Like that thing was solid, but it wasn't a great venue. It didn't have a ton of amenities. And then the best thing about it though was it was a concrete fortress. So if it got loud in there, if you got a huge group of people, a big sellout, like it was so loud in there. And I know a lot of people said the same thing about Oracle Arena in Golden State. It was kind of the same way, where it's an old concrete building and the sound just reverberates in there. I think that for a while, the first couple years, if I serve for him, the Bucks kind of struggled to get that. But during the finals run, I mean, it was loud. People really cared. Like you could. You
It
could
is said,
feel.
Eric, that the arenas that are horrible for concerts because of the reverberations are great for
Yes.
cheering for a team, and vice versa. So in this Chase Center and in this Pfizer Forum, maybe is something about that. But a friend of mine just said, okay, you have to cheer louder.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely, and I think people kind of figured that out. I remember when I first got a tour of Fiserv Forum, as they were still building it, the Bucks president, Peter Fagan, had said like, "Oh, it's acoustically tuned for concerts. It's gonna be the best concert venue in the Midwest." And as soon as he said it, I was like, "Oh, that's probably not the best thing for basketball. Like, you probably want it to be loud and you want it to not sound good."
Yeah.
But no, I really did think like as the playoffs went on last year, people really started to bring it, and I thought too, there was this strange build to it because with COVID protocols, you know, at the end of the season, it was just people starting to trickle in 50% attendance. And then as the playoffs went on, those restrictions started to leave. And then all of a sudden, by the finals, you have a full arena of 17,000 people just kind of losing their minds. So I for Bucks fans, I thought by the end of it, it felt loud and crazy and insane. So it might not have started that way, but I think by the end of it, it did to me feel like kind of what the Bradley Center used to feel like.
It was great from the TV. It seemed really great. I have too many things to talk about,
We got
and
some
you have
time.
no
We're
time.
we're we're good.
Because I want to know, this is a little bit stupid, but what Brandon Jennings did, because it seems that he's going to leave because a sentence he said a few years ago, and suddenly he was disappeared. His NBA career, it wasn't like we all thought it was. The injuries also have to do with that. But suddenly it seemed last year like he was the the starter pointing guard.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about his journey because when he said Bucks and six, he was talking about the Bucks as an 8 seed beating the big 3 Miami Heat as the 1 seed. There
Yeah.
was no chance of that happening. It was total absurdity, but, getting a chance to talk to Brandon about it the last couple of years, he's like, "What am I supposed to say? Like, we're gonna lose?" He's like, "I've never believed that. When I go on a basketball court, I think we're gonna win." And he was like, "And I know that, if we were gonna win as a lower seeded team, it would have to be in 6 because you don't want a game 7 on the road." So he's like, Bucks and 6 was what made sense. That's what it had to be if we were gonna do it. And to me, it was interesting here in Milwaukee because it kind of built over the years. Like, this wasn't just a last year thing. I remember in, let's see, 2018 when they were playing the Raptors, Bucks and 6 chants were in the Bradley Center. That was something that people were doing. Excuse me, that was the Celtics. The 2 years before that against the Raptors. But both of those years, Bucks and 6 chants are going in the Bradley Center as they're trying to, close out games and get to the spot that they want to get to. And to me, it's fun because obviously it was said in a way that no one would ever believe it. No one would ever believe his prediction. That's obvious because they weren't any good. Like, they were never going to beat the Heat. But to me, it's like this. It's like this motto that it's self belief and it's we don't care what you say. And I think there's like a level of bravado to it. There always has been that has resonated with people in Milwaukee because they've been the small town team. They've been the little franchise that no one cares about. So when a series starts and maybe you have a chance, maybe you don't. Maybe you're the underdog, whatever. Hey, what's gonna happen in the series? Bucks and 6. Like, you can just say it. Like, you can just say it, and it's like this kind of thing that people can build around to be like, whatever, man. People can say what they want about Milwaukee. Bucks and
Yeah.
6. They're going to do it. Bucks and 6. And it just kind of built and built and built. And then, obviously everyone got to have a little bit of fun with it, call Brandon Jennings a prophet and, say the prophecy was fulfilled, but it's crazy. It does end up being Bucks and 6 in the NBA finals. And like I said, 100,000 people outside of Fiserv Forum and just being this kind of crazy night. So yeah, I don't know that Brandon Jennings had a ton of relevance for years and years until then. But once it started to happen and unfold in that way, everyone really embraced it and got him to come to Milwaukee. And it's really kind of just a cool and fun story.
It's very fun. It's very fun. We are going to end with the nowadays Bucks. If you were comfortable, we can repeat other day and talk about the championship. But if we don't talk about this year Bucks, my friend Julian is going to kill me. So I'm still going to want to be alive. What do you think about this 2021 2022 Milwaukee Bucks? Danny Gea, one of the members of NBAdictos, he always said that there's something to worry about the championship teams is that they may have the full stomach. So okay, we did it. That's okay. So we don't have to fight it. And I want to know if you see that of or if you see those players hungry for more. And how do you see the team?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because this team just went through a whole bunch of injuries at the start of the season. And you know, you have 4 of the 5 starters from last year out with injuries. Brook Lopez still isn't back, but now that, they're kind of recovering, they look more and more like themselves. Even without Brook and Giannis needing to play some minutes and the Bucks needing to grab Boogie Cousins to, help solidify the center position, they're starting to look more and more like themselves. And, honestly, at the start of the year, I was telling a lot of the people around the organization and in the organization, like, I feel like you guys should probably have a more serious sense of urgency. Like, if you look at the Lakers last year, that's kind of exactly what you're talking about, where, they struggled with injuries and then they were thinking about it and it was, oh, how are we going to get to this spot? How are we going to, you know, get into a championship position? And they said, hey, as long as we're healthy at the end of the year, we'll figure it
Yeah,
out. And that's a good bit of confidence to have and that's a good belief to have. But if you play out the season in that way with that same confidence, all of a sudden you're the 7 seed
yeah.
and you're going up against the Phoenix Suns in the first round instead of another team that you could beat easily, or you could beat with someone getting injured or whatever it may be. You've totally erased your margin for error. And to me, that was a thing I was worried about with this Bucks team was, coming out of the gate, the injuries happened. Those it stinks. It's really difficult to deal with and to play good basketball. But it felt like they were just so confident, like, hey, whatever, we'll be fine. If we're healthy by the playoffs, all we need to be in is in the playoffs and we'll take care of business. And that's great to have that confidence. But I thought I went a little bit too far, but now they're in a good spot, right? Like they're
Mhm.
a game out of the top spot in the East. They're right where they need to be. So I think it ended up working out. And honestly, with this team, I don't think it's possible for Giannis to play and not be hungry. That's just not how he operates. Like he's always been so hungry and he's always been so focused on getting better that he's going to play hard. And by proxy, his team is going to play hard because he won't accept anything else. He won't accept taking nights off.
It seems that way that Giannis is going to keep trying, keep fighting, and also I think he can kind of make like a step more in obviously in that game 6 it was
Yep.
great, and I think that I don't care if his partners are hungry or not. I think that he is and he's going to make them to be. And Trompicayo is asking here, and I'm going to ask you also, what do you think about the Marcus Cousins, the arrival of this player? Is he's a different player of the Marcus of the Sacramento Kings, obviously, but I don't know if he matches with this team. I personally don't like very much this first game of the Marcus, but it's only the first game. What do you think about?
I think with him, it's pretty clear that like he has some physical limitations from kind of what he used to be. The thing that used to make DeMarcus so special was, he was so athletic and so big and so fast, and he just could do so much out on the floor. And it's clear that those things don't he can't do those things anymore. And that'll happen, right? You tear an Achilles, you tear an ACL on the same leg, you're not going to be the same athlete. That's just how this works. But what I do think for the Bucks right now is they just need a body. One thing that Giannis has said throughout the year is like, "Hey, I like playing the 5. That's totally fine, but I don't want to do this all the time. Like this takes a toll on my body, being the center out on the floor on offense and defense, and having to do all these things. And you can tell that that's not what he wants to do for the entire season. So I think the Bucks have been very secretive about what is actually wrong with Brook Lopez. He's been out now. He played the first game and he hasn't played one since. So we're looking at 20 games with what is listed as back soreness.
Yeah, there's no
And
timetable.
and every time uh, I mean, pretty much every press conference, I ask Bud for an update, and no update, no timeline on when he's coming back. Okay, and also no setbacks. So somehow he's not going in the wrong direction, but yet he's not playing, and there's no update on his time. You know what? That's fine. But they're not updating anything on it, and you can tell that they need a body. They needed a guy like DeMarcus Cousins, where I think there's a number of things about him that just by being himself is helpful. He's massive. He is a huge human being. That helps. That means Giannis doesn't have to eat up all of the bodies underneath the rim. That means Giannis doesn't have to go through 3 big guys to get a rebound himself. That means there's someone else there that can take just that beating. Even if it's only for 10 minutes a night, even if it's only for 15 minutes a night, that works. DeMarcus Cousins also likes shooting threes. The Bucks big men need to do it. They have to be able to do it. So I think that works as well. And he'll help from a rebounding perspective and a rim protection perspective. It's not going to be Brook Lopez. Anybody that reads my work knows that I think Brook Lopez is maybe the best defensive center in the league. Gobert's probably better, but Brook is right there. He's that good.
Mhm.
DeMarcus Cousins is not going to be that. He won't be anywhere close to that. But he's a large human that can make the job easier for Giannis. And honestly, I think when you talk to Mike Budenholzer, that's the big thing, is that they're worried about how much Bobby Portis and Giannis were working as the lone big men on the floor. They only had 2 big men. That's all that they were playing. And it was just a lot for those guys. And I don't think they wanted that to stretch on any further. They wanted to get another body in there to make it easier on those 2 guys.
Mhm. That's only 2 last quick questions. First of all, how is Dante DiVincenzo? We saw him making some scrimmage. How is his recovery working?
Yeah, everything you hear from the Bucks is positive. I think where this injury is a little bit unusual is, if someone tears an ACL, we generally know how long that's going to take. If someone tears an Achilles, we know how long that's going to take. This is a bit of a strange injury. Like we're talking about a torn ligament in his foot, and I think that has been part of the difficulty for the Bucks trying to give a timeline for when he's going to return. There's not another corollary out there. There's not another parallel situation. There's not, hey, this is how long it takes to recover from this injury.
Mhm.
So they're kind of feeling their way through this and giving him more and more. Like the other night before the game, Dante was out there doing some shooting, and then he he caps off all of his pregame workouts with Patrick St. Andrews, one of the Bucks assistant coaches, throwing an alley oop to him off the backboard and him dunking with two hands. And that's like the most physical thing that you get to see him do. And behind closed doors, I'm sure he's doing a lot of stuff that tests his athleticism and doing all that. But as far as what you see publicly, when he's out before a game, it's going to be set shooting at the 3-point line, in the mid range, and then he'll end with that dunk. And I think to me that suggests he's not quite there yet. Like once you start seeing in those workouts, all right, there's a pump fake and a drive to the basket. There's some more of those athletic things. That's when he's going to start to get
More
close. So
explosive things.
correct.
Yeah.
Once you start to see that, that's when you're going to know he's close. And we haven't seen that yet. So I still think, at least a month before you see Dante, just because unless he can do those things, he can't play. So he's going to have to keep growing, but everything from the Bucks perspective has been very positive about it. They're happy with kind of how that's gone, but ultimately this is a really rough injury, right? Like that's going to end up being, he did that in May, I believe, if I have my timeline correct. That's a really long injury. That's 7 months, 8 months to be out. So it's serious. We'll have to see what happens once he hits the floor, but everything from the Bucks it has been positive.
And the cam goes out. I don't. I think you listen to me. I'm like frozen in the image, but if you listen
I
to me,
got you. I got you.
Yep. For ending, the last question is a little bit stupid, but how do you say the name of your starting point guard? Because here in Spain, it's very difficult to say the name. I call him Gru, like the guy of the of the movies.
Yes. Drew. So it should be like
With a
I'm trying to
G.
think. Yeah, so like it would be like DREW. How that name is pronounced
Gru.
is how you pronounce Drew,
Oh,
JRUE. It's
Gru.
very confusing and difficult, but also I guess that's just the English language. We all kind of make it up as we go.
Okay. I also noticed that you say Budenholzer, not Badenholzer.
Yeah, this is a strange one. Budenholzer is how I've always been told to pronounce his last name, but everyone calls him Coach Bud. And those two are different. It doesn't make any sense, but that is how I've always been told to pronounce it. So again, English, we're making up our own rules. That's just how it goes. Sorry to the whole world for being so confusing.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Thank you very much, Eric. I have problems with my cam, but I guess you listen to me perfectly. That's what matters. Thank you very much. I'm a huge fan of your work and all your pals in the athletic. In nowadays, that all is journalism of Twitter and clickbait and that stuff. Having real good journalism, standard articles, and talking about real basketball is great. I always recommend the people to subscribe to the Athletic, and also you have a book, 100 things Bucks fans should know and do before they die. So you have it in Amazon, and you can gift in Christmas. Thank you very much, Eric. Hope you've been comfortable, and this is your house.
Absolutely, man. This has been a great time. I've loved the conversation. And also, if you are a Bucks fan and you want to know more about the championship season at the Athletic, we did another book called Built for This, that kind of recaps the championship season. You can find that on Amazon as well. So either of those, or come hang out at the Athletic. I think we tend to have a good time and talk basketball, and I mean just hang out. So feel free to come through for that as well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Eric. Nosotros nos vamos. En los próximos días tendremos la entrevista con Eric, traducida y doblada. Un saludo.